Hello. Good evening. How's everyone doing out there in the internetiverse? What's happening today? If you are joining, say hi in the chat. I am currently straight ahead of me on LinkedIn, Facebook, another Facebook, and YouTube. And then up and over to my side, I'm also on Instagram on my phone. So if you are joining me from Instagram, you're getting sort of this like backyard view of how things are. And you can come on over to LinkedIn or Facebook if you want to, or you can stay where you are. Welcome to Mindset Shifts and the What Ifs. I'm super glad to be here. I love having this routine. I was just talking to my coach today, and for the first couple of years of my business, being an actual business that I was investing in and really building, and not just sort of accidentally getting clients from because of word of mouth and, people asking me if I coached. In this 2 years, I left my corporate job and I was totally anti-structure. I just wanted out. I did not want any structure. I had been in such an structured environment for so long and in a place where I had to be structured, because if I wasn't, everything would fall apart. And so I just became super resistant to structure. And in the last couple of months, I've re-embraced it and I'm starting to build a structure that feels good to me. But it's a lot of work, and I've been, I'm a little tired, and I am going to be taking a vacation next week, which is kind of nice. I haven't taken a vacation in a long time. Partly because of COVID, and partly because I was building my business, and partly because I am not amazing at letting myself spend real money on myself. And so next week I'm taking a little vacay and a little bit of time off of work. And Amber's here with us. Hey, Amber. Making pork. That's what's for dinner. Amazing. Thanks for joining. And if you're joining and you want to say hi, leave a comment, give a wave emoji. Oh, we just got a wave emoji. Hello. I am happy to answer questions along the way. Here's how this works. If you haven't been with us before, I have a wheel, an electronic wheel that I will share on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. Unfortunately, if you're on Instagram, somebody just said hi to me. Oh, hey, Deshawn, how are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for giving me your name, because your Instagram handle doesn't have your name in it. So I appreciate that. And Deshawn and I are in a grown-up play group together. So I spin a wheel. If you're on Instagram, unfortunately, I can't share the wheel with you, but I will tell you what the result is. And whatever topic comes up on the wheel, that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. So let's get started on that. Here we go. Oh, here's our wheel, which just got tiny. Not sure why. Okay, great. So here we go. Let's give it a spin. Le boo. I know. I'm sorry, Deshawn. Once I can integrate Instagram with Restream, I for sure will. Oh, tonight's topic is time management. I love it. Love it. And we've got my friend Kim here, who I met in the first days of internet gaming, and we started playing online Scrabble together, and we've been friends ever since. So, hey, Kim, thanks for joining. So time management is our topic tonight. And that kind of makes me laugh, because during my introduction, I was talking about my resistance to structure, and that's real related to time management. So, and I'd love to hear in the comments as we go along, like, what are your questions about time management? What are your struggles? What works for you? I love for this to be a conversation. So time management for me has always been pressure oriented. Until recently, until the last couple of years. If you know me, you know that I used to work 80 to 100 hours a week. I used to take on way more than I coulda, shoulda, woulda, if I had any boundaries. And so I was all work and like a very tiny little bit of play, but mostly work. And when I wasn't working, I was thinking about work. And when I was going to bed at night, I was looking at work before I went to bed on my phone, which, by the way, I've recently learned. I'm a Gen Xer, and I've learned that Gen Xers and millennials, when they talk about talking on the phone, they do this. And anyone younger, like on the young end of millennials and the Gen Zers, they go like this for a phone because that's what we do. So I'm trying to modernize. I'm like, it's my equivalent of going to single space instead of double space on Word, which I did. And I built that habit a bunch of years ago. But here's me on the phone. So I would check my phone before I went to bed. I would check my phone when I got up. There was no time management because time was managing me. And as I developed boundaries, excuse me, as I developed boundaries, which I did with the help of a coach because I wasn't doing it for myself, I recognized that when I had downtime, I didn't know what to do with it. And so over the last 2 years, being out on my own, having left corporate almost to the day 2 years ago, July 2nd was my last day 2 years ago in my corporate life. Since I left, I have been sort of tied to what's on my calendar and felt like I was in waiting in those in-between times. And so, and Amber, you say yours is pressure oriented, but you struggle. Your ADD is in full drive from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. Yeah, I mean, there is definitely a peak time of day factor for a lot of us. I have not officially been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, but I have a lot of the tendencies. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's something that I have. And Kim says, my time management is leaving enough self-care time for me between working and driving my kids around to all of their activities. Yeah, that is super important, right? We have to include ourselves in our own time management. And I didn't do that for a long time. And a lot of my clients, a lot of people who come to me from the corporate world, do not know how to time bind their boundaries. So even if they've said no to something, or even if they've had a really heavy work week the week before, it doesn't occur to us as high achievers, as corporate people. And Deshawn said, floating between appointments. That's how I have felt for the last couple of years, is that I'm floating in between appointments. And so I have felt like if I am not bound to like what I have to do and what's around me, that I've had a hard time figuring out what to do with my time. So I've done a couple of things recently for myself. One is I was putting pressure on myself, and I was putting things on my calendar that didn't actually have deadlines. So I've just recently started building deadlines for myself, that if I want to launch something on X date, that I need to work a timeline backwards. I might even start using project management software. So watch out, because I'm going to get real powerful with that. And so it's no longer a false deadline of talk about this on social media or go live and do this, or, thinking about connecting with people and things. So I'm giving myself the grace, really, of building myself timelines and accountability. I also am hiring a couple of folks, not full-time, but folks who have their own businesses and run their own shows, to help me with certain aspects of the business where I need both ideas and accountability. I have been a bootstrapper. I have been a do-it-yourselfer. And I have finally started recognizing that I'm at a point in my business where I don't have to do that anymore. I'm choosing to do that. And so I'm now starting to choose to let some things go. So let's talk a little bit about time management a little bit more generally, and not so egocentrically. And one of the things, Amber, you said your ADD is in full drive from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. So one of the things is understanding how your flow of time works. Now, in some ways, we are tied to other people's schedules, right? If you have a little one at home and they wake up at 6:30 in the morning, you can't tell them to entertain themselves until you're ready to get up at 9. So there are some factors that happen to us. There are some factors that we can happen to. And there are more factors that we can happen to than we give ourselves credit for. If this especially happens when your day doesn't start with you making choices, right? So, like I said, I used to wake up in the morning, pick up my phone, and the first thing I did was be at work while I was still in bed, while I was still getting out of bed, while I was going to pee for the first time in the morning. So, therefore, I was working from the moment I woke up. And even when I took my breaks to take a shower, to make coffee, to drive into the office, the work was still in my head. I was still doing work. And so once my workday had started, it didn't end until like I was too tired to work. And I see that with so many clients, people in my community, people in corporate lives. I see it with teachers. I see it with healthcare workers, anybody who has to take things home with them, whether it's charts, whether it's papers to grade, lesson planning, work in our corporate lives. There is always stuff to do. And entrepreneurs, forget it. There's nobody telling you what to do. So you're going to just keep doing stuff. So the key is to really start your day in choice as much as possible. If you have a little one who toddles into the room out of their toddler bed that they've figured out how to climb over the rail of, you got to handle that, right? But at some point, if there's a partner in the house, if there is a daycare drop off, like Kim said, there is some in between time at some point in the day. I have had clients who have taken 5 minutes as a starter to do a thing. They set a timer on their phone and they are meditating for 5 minutes. And when the timer goes off, they're not doing it anymore and they're back into their stuff. But in order to build the habit, it's not that you wake up one morning and you say like, it's all over for all of you. And I've said this before, if you've heard me before, there's no like switch that you turn that's going to shift you from I don't take care of myself at all and I don't time manage at all. Time manages me to I'm in control. I decide everything. I choose everything. It's about making small choices. So one of the clients I'm working with right now, apparently there's a feature on the Microsoft suite where you can set aside time blocks. Now, time blocks don't work for everybody. It's controversial in the ADHD community in particular, because for some people it works really well. For a lot of people, it's like a nightmare to set aside big blocks of time to do things because your brain and your body have to be ready for and in the mood for deep work, or you're just going to scatter yourself and move around. I do it all the time. So it's about little things. How do you want your day to look? What does self-care mean to you? For some people, self-care means sitting with a bottle of lotion and softening your legs every morning. For other people, that means really taking care with like your face routine. For other people, that means I drink my coffee and it's totally quiet. For some people, it means blasting music on the way into the office or into your workplace and like singing out loud. I call that on tour, right? Because you're in the car, you're moving, you're performing on tour. Side note, if you're singing in the shower, that is a concert in the rain. That came from my friend Liz, and it's a perfect description. So you have to decide, what does time managed mean to you? Because it's not going to be the same for you as it is for somebody else. And this is why I don't really like time management classes, because a time management class is going to teach you methodologies of time management, but it's not actually going to dig into what works for you. With the exception of time management coursework that actually assesses you as a human and what your prime times of day are, and then, addresses modalities within that. There's some functionality in that. I don't want to trash all the trainers out there. I've been a trainer, still am a trainer. And I value time management training. But if it is a generic course that's just like, take control of your time, everybody, and we're not looking at the individual and what the individual needs, then it's just really a motivational talk about how you can manage your time. So first, what does time management mean to you? What feels chaotic? For me, in my old life, work always felt chaotic because people just put appointments on my calendar. I never said no to anything. And I just kept on working and catering to other people until I started learning how to boundary set. And I said no to meetings, or I blocked time on my calendar. And I then started, in the mornings, setting a timer for 15 minutes where I wasn't working. I wasn't allowed to look at my phone for that first 15 minutes of the day, except to set the timer. And that had me craving more free time in the morning. And more free time in the morning, I used the time to read. So then I was reading for a half hour in the mornings before I did anything. Often my dog was patient enough before we went outside. Sometimes we had to go outside first and then come back in and get back into bed and read. But my dog's more of a bully to me than I am to her. I said that to somebody else today. So, I balanced that time management around my dog's needs, because she's not going to understand a conversation where we talk about the importance of me staying in bed and reading a half hour in order to address my self-care. So as time went on for me, as time goes on for my clients, as time goes on for you, if you start focusing on your time management, there's a bunch of stuff to notice. One, notice where you crave self-care. Notice where you crave downtime, a break. You get thirsty, you get hungry, right? Like, really notice that stuff. And even if you're not time managing well at the beginning, I always say noticing awareness is the very first step. Because if we don't notice and we just tell ourselves like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours every day starting now. Not only are we not going to do it, or we're going to do it once and then we're going to be so sore because we haven't been to the gym in so many years that 2 hours at the gym is absolutely absurd. But it's not sustainable because we haven't worked out what we actually need. Do we want to be at the gym for 2 hours a day? Do we want to be doing self-care in the morning? You may not be awake enough in the morning to care about self-care. You may not be awake enough in the morning to spend time with your little one reading them a story. Maybe that's an afternoon activity. Maybe that's an evening activity. But when you're looking at time management, that first step of noticing is, where do I have control and where am I controlled? And, control is kind of a myth, because even in the things that we think we can control, something pops up and we have to adjust. So you still have to be flexible, but you don't have to be so flexible that you never take ownership or control of how you want the time to be. So you get to notice, where do all of these cravings come out during the day for your time, for your energy, for integration of work stuff and home stuff. Once you've done some noticing, then you get to start deciding, where do you want to adjust? Do you need time in the morning? Do you need time at night? Do you, I know someone who used to try to do stuff in the morning before her kids woke up, but her kids were unpredictable in their wake up times. And so some mornings she woke up earlier than them, and some mornings she woke up early and they were already like up and waiting for her. So she decided to take that time and put it to the end of the night, because they had a predictable bedtime and they were pretty good at staying in bed. And Amber says, yeah, you have to decide what you want and then practice strengthening the muscle. But that's the important word, is practice. It is all a practice. It's not like a project where you implement and then everything has changed. It is a practice. So when you decide, when you notice where you have these spaces, where you have these holes, where you have these areas where you really want to dig in and focus on managing the time differently. Notice I didn't say better, just differently. Then you get to decide. So it's notice first, then decide what do you want to work on, then decide what do you want to work on first. So it's not about waking up and saying, today I go to the gym and I read for a half hour and I prepare a 3-course meal for dinner and I go to bed by 8:30. You're not going to do that. I wouldn't do it. And I still don't do it. I don't really know what my kitchen does. It's just sort of this bright room with appliances that I don't know how to use. But you get to decide. So it's notice and then decide. and then start doing slowly. Start with 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or a block of time that you put on your calendar at work where you cannot be disturbed, and then hold that boundary. I'm right in the middle of something. I know it doesn't look like I'm in a meeting, but I'm right in the middle of something. I'm going to get back to you in a half hour. Notice I didn't ask for permission. You're generally, if you're in a not super toxic work environment, if you are firm and clear and authoritative without being sort of aggressive, if you're authoritative about your needs, people will listen. If you ask for permission, you're asking for pushback. So if you say, can I get back to you in a half hour? Then you're inviting, no, you cannot. I need to talk to you about this now. If you are saying, I'm in the middle of something, I will get back to you in a half hour. If it's an emergency, that person's going to say like, sorry, but it's an emergency. Cool. Give them the latitude to say that. But you get to hold boundaries. That's what we're so bad at. That's what, as humans, as compassionate people, as high achievers, we are inclined to put others first, right? Even in play, I mentioned that Deshaun is with us on Instagram, and he's in this group that focuses on play with a lot of people who are trained in improv and positive psychology and play at work. Even with play, you have to start working it in. You have to start inviting yourself in to play. And when you're playing with others, even with play, our tendency is to defer to the other person and see how they want to play and help them play. And all of that is really positive until it's damaging. I don't know if any of you have ever done improv, but if you do improv, and I have, if you do improv and you're with somebody who's a little bit of a stage hog, and the whole philosophy of improv is to be generous. The whole philosophy is to set your partners on stage up for success, right? So you don't want to shut down the conversation. If you've ever seen The Office, when Michael Scott goes to improv, he's the best example of absolutely demolishing a scene. But if you are on stage with a partner or partners who are stage hogs, you're going to set them up for success, and then they're going to walk all over the stage and all over you. And that's just not how we play, right? So we want to set each other up for success. And also, if you're in an improv scene and you're not getting any play, you get to jump in and swipe the scene or change a character or ask a question and pull yourself back into the room. At work, in life, you get to pull yourself into the room. You get to create and hold boundaries and be respectful at the same time and be generous at the same time. You holding a boundary and you telling people what you need instead of asking permission for what you need is a great way to hold a boundary and start with that time management. So clearly I can't solve the time management problem in 20 minutes, but the start is that notice, decide, do that I always talk about. Notice, decide, do. Notice where you're craving that balance. Notice where you're craving some time management and some like more better parameters around that time, and then decide what you want to work on, and then do little things. And of course, as always, if you're looking for executive coaching support to do that, that is what I do, my friends. I'm going to close for tonight. And thank you, Deshaun. He said, that's making me smile, or this is making me smile. Thanks so much for being here tonight. I am taking next week off. So I will not be here for Mindset Shifts and the What Ifs next Tuesday, but I will be back the following Tuesday. So this is a regular show every Tuesday at 7:05 p.m. Eastern. And I'll see you next time. Enjoy your week. And thanks so much for being with me.